Buenos dias. I noticed on week 4's quizzes over chapter 3 that there was a big problem with the stem changing verbs. Also, I call them shoe verbs. I will explain why in just a moment. So I am taking this document and doing a screencast-o-matic of it. It's a document I use actually for my very first semester Spanish class, and this is about the point in the semester where you're at that they're also introduced to it, which is approximately halfway through the semester. So I'm going to do this in Spanglish, a little bit in Spanish, a little bit in English. So we have los shoe verbs, or los stem cheaters, son verbos con un cambio en la raíz. Cada verbo tiene dos partes, la raíz, la terminación. Entonces, por ejemplo, el verbo hablar, habla, es la raíz, ar es la terminación. Okay, so before we get to talk about these verbs with this change in the stem or root, we need to remember that verbs consist of two parts, that they have a stem or root. So for hablar, that would be the habla part, and then they have this ending, which would be ar. And up until now, it was the ending you would take off, that ar, and you would plug in an o, or an as, or an a, or an amos, or an an, depending upon who was doing the action. Okay? Now, con los shoe verbs. Hay tres grupos de cambios. Hay un grupo que es E a I. Hay un grupo I a E. Hay un grupo O a UE, pero también U a UE, donde jugar es el único verbo aquí. So we have three kind of changes that happen in these stems. Three major changes. The first group is the E a IE, the E to IE. This is going to be your largest group. We have E a I, E to I. This is your smallest group. And then the group in the middle is the O a UE, the O to UE. Okay, that's the middle group. And I always put to U a UE, the U to UE, with it. But remember, jugar is the only verb that's going to do this. Okay? Now, I always suggest to my students as well that they either create in a spiral notebook or on a Word doc 3 different pages. On the first page, whether you want to call them stem changers, whether you want to call them shoe verbs, whichever you prefer, and then do the E to IE. And as I go through my vocabulary list at the end of every chapter, the book is nice enough to show us that, for example, it goes in this group, the very first one in Semana 4, Semana 5, in week 5 of Capítulo 4 of chapter 4, the first verb in the list is acordarse. And then they show us this. Okay? This is to tell us that acordarse is a verb, and in this case it's going to be the O changes to UE. Okay? So as I go through my vocabulary list, I will, on the page that I have O to UE, U to UE, I'm going to put acordarse. And then I'm just going to keep adding each chapter. Now granted, you only have chapters 3, 4, and 5 that'll have these. But I will go through those lists, and then I'll have them all in one place. And I'm not searching, going, oh, was this a stem-changing verb or a shoe verb? I've got it right there in one place. So that's just a suggestion. Okay. Now, back to Spanish. Los cambios afectan a las siguientes personas. So the changes affect the following people. Okay. So I put them in red. These are the ones that will change. La primera persona singular, yo. La segunda persona singular, tú, usted. La tercera persona singular, él, ella. La segunda persona formal plural, ustedes. Y la tercera persona plural, ellos, ellas. Okay, so the first person singular, the second person singular, both formal and informal. The third person singular, the second person formal and singular, and the second person formal and plural, and the third person plural. Okay. The two that do not change I have in blue. I apologize to anybody who is colorblind, but the first person singular, or first person plural, nosotros, and the second person informal and plural, vosotros, which is typically not used in the Americas. It's actually something from Spain, so I would not spend a whole lot of time worrying about that. Okay? Those do not change. Now, how I typically set up my verbs is that I put all my singular forms on the left side. So yo, one person, tú, you're one person, usted is one person, él is one person, ella is one person. And then I have all my plurals. So if somebody joins me, we become we, nosotros. Somebody joins you in Spain, you become y'all, queréis. Or I'm sorry, vosotros. If somebody joins you formal, you become y'all, ustedes. Somebody joins him, somebody joins her, they become ellos, ellas. And so I have all my singular, all my plural. Now looking back up here as to which forms change, I see that the yo does, so it's an E, okay, the E to IE, so quiero, quieres, quiere, quieren. But nosotros and vosotros don't change. Queremos, queréis. Now if I draw a funky line around the ones that do change, it makes this weird looking shoe. And as a visual learner, that helps me because I think of everything inside the shoe changes. If it's outside the shoe, it doesn't change. Okay? And you'll notice that the endings are not affected. Querer is an ER verb. So it's still, the endings are o, es, e, hemos, es, en. So our endings have not changed. What has changed is this vowel in the root has changed for some of the people to this. Okay? Another example, dormir, which is an example of o, a, u, e. So duermo, duermes, duerme, duermen. You know, they're all in my shoe, but what's outside of my shoe is dormimos and dormis. They don't change. And the third group, smallest group, E to I, like pedir, is pido, pides, pide, piden, but that's off center there. Pedimos, pedis. Okay. So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense to you. If not, please let me know. Gracias.